Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, my name's Rich McDonald, and I played David Mason in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Everything Geek podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Leif Gamfert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldavar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Rory Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actor Matthew Rohman, best known for playing a Cyberman, a monk, a Victorian Soldier, a Victorian Policeman, and a gunrunner in Doctor Who, a Shadowkin Soldier and a murdered student in Class, a Ventris Guard in The Bastard Executioner, a tourist in Sherlock, a sandperson in Torchwood, a mental patient and a medieval soldier in Being Human, a market stall owner in Downton Abbey, a villager in Merlin, and a servant in Galavant. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm just awfully impressed how much you've been stalking my IMDb. That was very well. Did you actually breathe through any of that then?
No. That's impressive even for me. I just went right through it all. I didn't even stop to breathe once. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for you to have me. This is my first interview on radio or any kind of sort of media at all. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting or diabolically awful. One of the two. Let's go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you can only go up if it's bad, so if it starts off badly, it can only get better. Yeah, that's a weird bit of reassurance. And I apologize to the listeners for the fact that one of his credits had a curse word in it.
Well, it's not a curse word. It's actually in the English dictionary. You will happily find. Yeah. So it is referring to him being fatherless. It's not a curse word per se. It's the context of it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, but just for the sake of some listeners who still think it's a curse word.
Fair enough, okay.
You never know, but it's a very good point you make. So getting right into my questions for you, Matthew, can you tell us, for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with your background, because they don't stalk you on IMDb, can you tell us how you got into acting?
Well, to be honest, I got into it a grand total of 11 years ago, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm super old. But I've only been doing it in the past 4 or 5 years. Basically, I was in university with my best friend, Matt, and his sister did sort of background extra work, or what they call in the industry SA, supporting artist. And they were like, oh, bear in mind, I had hair down to halfway down my back, so really, really long hair. And she was like, well, they're desperate for men with long natural hair for life on Mars. So I was like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, let's do it. It'd be a nice, good laugh. And yes, we drove all the way to Manchester, I think it was, from Cardiff, which is a hell of a drive to start with. And yeah, just kind of fell in love with the industry on day one, just because even though my costume was diabolically awful and very 70s, very, very 70s, and very tight in certain areas for procreating with. But yeah, it was a really good day, and that's how I basically got into it. Yeah, and it just kind of spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah, it's very cool. And is it just great when, when casting agencies are looking for people with a very particular appearance, like, it's not just a general kind of casting call, they really, really want people with long natural hair. It's just like that, it's just like you kind of feel like that audition is definitely for me.
Yeah, it said, well, to be honest, it wasn't done through a casting agent. It was done through my friend, and she kind of recommended us to the casting agent. But yeah, there's been quite a few. I've had quite a few interesting castings in the past. basically it's all down to your looks. I love to say it's down to my good looks or personality, but he's just got the right stuff. I'll do.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell us how you were originally cast in Doctor Who?
Oh God, well, to be honest, it was one of those things because I've been doing this for so long. The first ever Doctor Who episode I did was, I believe it was the one with the adipose. Was the adipose?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I was just like an audience member, and it's just like general background, and then it was, is it the Shadow of the Damned or something like that? It's basically the library, the library with all like the souls, like they possess the suits and they chase them through the library. I was kind of one in the saved at the end, but basically sorry, what I'm trying to say is I always start off as sort of extra work, background, and it was only until I started because basically then over the years I kind of built up a good rapport with my agent, and they kind of trust me and they know that I can go into to do the job, that I know I can do it, I can be professional about it, la 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 la. And it's only when I started doing Class, that's when I got my first monster role, and that's when I started, because I think I must have made a good impression, because then in this series of Doctor Who, I think I was 7 characters, 5 of which were monsters. So yeah, it's been it's kind of literally snowballing out of control from there, really.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and I have to admit, if I knew that you had been on some of the previous series or seasons, whichever word the listeners prefer, I would have actually bothered to memorize the episode titles in advance, but I have to admit...
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I thought it was just in the last few years that you've been
No.
on it, but...
I've also body doubled for Matt Smith. I've also I was in a Christmas episode. It was the one where, sorry, I feel really bad now because I've worked in these episodes, but do you think I can remember the title of them? No, I can't. It was the one with Catherine Jenkins and she was frozen, and they had Michael Gambon as like the villain or the Scrooge character, and I body doubled for the young version of him. But yeah. To be honest, what's on my IMDb is only there because someone made a profile on IMDb and it was all completely wrong. So I basically made it from scratch, and that's why I could remember. That's what's on my IMDb anyway. But yeah, I've my God, I can't remember everything I've worked on. I'm so sorry.
No, it's completely fine. Just for the benefit of our listeners, just to confirm them. So the first episode, the one with the adipose, was called Partners in Crime, the first episode of
that was
4.
it. Yeah.
The library episode, I'm pretty sure this is the same one because it was the 8th episode in the same series. It was
Yes, it was.
Silence in the Library was that one. And then Michael Gambon's Christmas special was A Christmas Carol. So... That's
you're good at this, aren't you?
No, like I said,
Google.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna lie, I googled all of them right there, because like if I knew that you had worked on the previous series as well, I would have memorized these titles. But I thought we were just doing series 8 and 9, so this is educational for me. I'm remembering these titles, so yeah. So yeah, just for the sake of the listener. Like confirming which episodes you're referring to. I mean, no one expects anyone to memorize episode titles, but just for the sake of the listeners, just want to confirm those.
That's fine, mate. That's cool.
Yeah. Just for the sake of both of our embarrassments.
No, but it's kind of like you just kind of made me go, oh God, how many years ago was that? Okay, I remember I was in green screen. I had to look around and pretend because I had just been saved by a machine. That's all I can try and remember. I just remember being the old Rothlock Studios. No, the old studios in Upper Boat in Cardiff before they moved it to Cardiff Bay and stuff. It's just my mind is awful. I do apologise.
It's completely fine. I mean, we all have bad memories over time, like and
I'm super old, so
yeah, that won't help either. Were you a fan of Doctor Who before you were cast in the show?
Yeah, I watched the show. I wouldn't say I was like a massive fan, if I'm honest, but it was a case that I would always sit down and try to watch it, especially after the first season with Christopher Eccleston. I really, really enjoyed that. And when obviously David Tennant took over, I just absolutely fell in love with the show from there. And then obviously afterwards, I kind of got so busy with work and other commitments, and I was doing my master's degree at the time, so I really didn't have time to sit down and watch TV as much. But I still watched it when I could, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. So because you were a bit of a fan, like having really enjoyed the Eccleston and Tennant years, what was it like getting to play such an iconic Doctor Who alien like the Cybermen, who I have to be honest, they're my favourite Doctor Who aliens, so this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's one of those things where it's obviously because when you get the booking through for Doctor Who, they don't tell you what you're doing. They don't tell you what you're going to be. They just tell you, okay, you're booked for this date. They don't, because obviously, unfortunately, with the show, there's so many things of spoilers and things going out. They do try to keep it to a bare minimum. So then when I get like the casting the day beforehand, it's like, okay, this is your time, this is your date, and you're going to be a Cyberman. I'm just like, oh, okay. And then obviously we had to, because it's the day before filming, we have to do the movement workshops with, God, I forgot the lady's name now. This is so embarrassing. Basically, you have to do the movement workshops to make sure that you're doing the correct movements and you all do it in time, etc., etc., etc. Elsa, sorry, that's the name. Who's obviously been in the industry for God knows how many years, and she's an institution with it herself. She's absolutely fantastic to work with. But yeah, it was kind of weird because I didn't fanboy about it at all, but it was kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, this is happening, all right, and you just kind of get stuck into it, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Now, out of all of the Doctor Who characters you have played so far, which costumes have been the most comfortable and uncomfortable to wear, respectively?
Right, because this is a can of worms, because I'm going to stop you there and say no Doctor Who monster outfit is comfortable. Like, none of them. Well, if I start at the beginning with Class, because that actually scarred me for life. Literally scarred me for life. Because basically but obviously you're sort of just in your pants, and then over the top of that you have full-length lycra, and then the Shadowkin armor that we were wearing was actually another layer of lycra, but with like the rubber sort of attached to it. So not only wearing 2 layers of lycra, you got the rubber on top, you got the big heavy masks, you got the big rubber gloves, the gauntlets, the boots, which never fit. I'm just going to point there. Boots, if you ever see a monster walking around, they do not fit. And basically, we did a shoot up in the Brecon Beacons. It was a night shoot. And actually, I bumped into Sophie Hopkins the other day. She was really nice on another shoot, and we caught up with coffee, and we were chatting about it. But this one night, they had a stunt guy in. And there were 4 Shadowkin. And then, obviously, the main Shadowkin leader, Korakinos, who was played by Paul. But unfortunately, they didn't have quite enough costume for the stunt guy. And obviously, Paul's had his own. So what they did, they took my trousers. And because obviously they needed to use me as well, the only trousers they had spare were the trousers for the lady stunt double. So not only am I wearing lycra, I've also got another pair of lycra, which is too tight, and it was so tight it actually rubbed off all the hair on the back of my legs, and has never grown back since. The back of my shins are completely bare. Yeah, it's so funny because obviously I'm not like a hairy guy, but I got hair on my legs, and then the back of my calves look like they've been waxed, and that's permanently for life now. But in terms of comfortable list, if that's a word, comfortable list, I would actually say the monk, believe it or not, because the monk outfit itself is just one big, very, very baggy dressing gown, and it is so breezy. It's so lovely to walk around in. The only downside with it is, because as I said, no monster outfit is comfortable, is the hood. And obviously you've seen the screenshots of me in the monk hood itself, and that is actually, they're not fitted to my face. There's one size, and what they do, it's full on latex and it's skin tight. It goes over your head like an entire hood, and like then you got like the massive collar. And yeah, it's one of those things. If you're claustrophobic, you can't be a monster at all, because even though you can see and I can breathe properly, it's the pressure from all angles pushing down on your skull. It's tough. It's very, very, very tough indeed, and especially if you've got to hit marks. It's like the one point where Jamie, the main monk, was obviously having a talk with the leaders, and then me and this other guy called Tim, we had to come from the threads of time we were sort of playing with in the scene, and then walk to specific points right next to Jamie. And that's hard because you've got very, very limited peripheral vision, and then there's stairs involved as well, so you kind of have to count how many stairs there are and just like leap of faith it as you walk, because obviously the monks are kind of very glidey as they walked, so you couldn't really show your steps. So yeah, that's not really answering your question of what's the best outfit to wear, because they're all horrible, if I'm honest. But the Shadowkin on Class did have its perks, in all fairness, because I said that the one shoot we did, it was like 4 nights in the Brecon Beacons, and this one night it was absolutely hammering it down, a gale, so much so the wind was coming in horizontal. It was freezing cold. Some of the tents blew over, nearly ruining the camera equipment, and they nearly called it off. It got that bad. And I just remember this one of the riggers coming up to me in full body waterproofs, full body, like, you know, trying to keep warm. He came up to me, he's like, "Mate, are you okay in there?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm sweating." I was literally just like, after every take, we had to rip our masks off to get air, because you're like, they are seriously, seriously hot things, and especially when you go into stage lights with them as well, they're just like, they are not for the faint of heart. Honestly, don't get me wrong, it's an honor and a privilege to play Doctor Who monsters, but at the same time, it's hard. It's very, very hard. You've got to have a certain degree of stamina, otherwise you just will keel over.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think you more than answered the question, to be honest. Just because, like, there really is no, you know, comfortable costume. I mean, I will admit I was sure you were going to say the Cyberman was the most, you know, uncomfortable to wear, so it's really interesting to hear about the monk costume, because I hadn't really heard a lot about what it was like before, so it's really interesting to hear about that and to hear your perspective on it. So yeah, I mean that really shows how much work goes into those scenes, because like the monk episodes were some of the most, you know, important of series 10, but just it gives me like it shows how much hard work goes in. Like, I'm wording this terribly, but you know, it just really,
no, I get you.
It really goes to show how much work goes into like just filming one scene, like the scene with the leaders you were referring to. So it's really interesting to hear about that. So thanks for sharing that perspective with us.
That's fine. Yeah, cool.
And would you say the costumes were the biggest challenges you faced while working on Doctor Who so far?
I wouldn't say they're the biggest challenges, no. They were a challenge to get into, especially the Cyberman, because again, in the last series, I was one of the RTD, Russell T Davies Cybermen, what do they call it? Where the modern ones are like a really nice sort of like nice, clean, easy to get into, out to. The RTDs, which I was, not so much, because again, like underneath, I'm wearing full body lycra, and then over the top of that is what I can only describe as a full body rubber onesie. Now, I can see you nodding, but it is literally a rubber onesie, and like they're so tight. 3 people have to get me into it. One to hold this side, one to hold this side, and the other to zip up the middle. And I'm quite a skinny guy anyway, so for me to struggle to get into one of these, it's pretty bad. But yeah, it's just sometimes most of the struggles I had really were, to be honest, with the RTD Cyberman outfits, especially there's this two scenes actually I can say off the top of my head, mainly because the helmet itself, again, the helmets are designed on someone else's measurements. So when the helmet sits on top of me, the eyesight actually comes well below my actual eyes, so I can see the floor and nothing else. And so it's to the point where, like, there's this one scene where they actually had me on like a green screen ironing board, and basically I was in what they call the flight position, and it was the point where like the Cybermen were attacking, obviously, the humans trying to invade the base, coming through all the different floors in the last episode, I believe it was. And because I was in the flying position with my arms and legs, but then I had to tip my head up because that's what the position is. But I had to sort of doubly tip my head back to make sure that the helmet was in a good-looking position. So even though it was in a good-looking position on camera, it was pretty much my neck was back 90 degrees, and I was screaming inside, going, call cut already, call cut. Because it was really, really difficult. And especially, again, walking. If we have specific, because obviously we have to be very, very concentrating. And especially the RTDs, they're very, very stompy. You've got to be very rigid. You've got to properly flex when you're stomping. Don't get me wrong, the boots help with the stomping because they're so heavy and they're so baggy and bad. But like when you've hit specific marks and you have to look in specific sections, you have to, because there's one bit where there's 5 of us stomping in a row. We had to stop and then look up at a certain point, and that's obviously where the doctor and the master was at the time. But actually, when we were shooting, it was just a street light we had to look at. But could we see that street light? Could we balls? So we had to. The only way to do it was like literally tip, because even though in the scene itself it just looked like we went like that, in actual fact, all of our heads were like doubly back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It just goes to show how little eyesight there was, except for looking at the floor, as you said.
Especially if they get you to, like I said, steps. Steps are the worst, because you literally have to look where you're going beforehand, count how many steps there are, and then you just have to like leap of faith when you're walking, because you need to keep your head straight when you're in character. You can't be going, okay, where am I going? You need to literally just like, okay, there's 7. Please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall.
And maybe I'm wrong, but were there any instances when any of the Cybermen actors in that scene fell?
No, because we're pro.
Yeah, fair play. But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to hear you talk about the Russell T Davies Cyberman costume like that, because it is my favourite of the Cyberman costumes. Like, it looks so great on screen. But not just you, but any other Cyberman actors I've interviewed on the podcast have all, not been that happiest when they've been inside of it. Let's put it that way.
And it's really surprising that they reprised the role for obviously the new season. But it made sense because obviously the Cybermen were evolving very quickly. So it made sense to go from the RTDs then to the modern Cybermen.
Yeah, and then also including the very classic look of the Cybermen from Classic Who as well.
Oh, the Mondasians, yes.
Yeah, that was very cool. Moving on, what is your favourite memory from your time working on Doctor Who so far?
Ooh, now you see, I've had quite a few. See, I've got 2 memories. One's good, one's bad. Basically, the good memory is just every day I've worked with Peter Capaldi, because, as I said, I've been in this industry 11 years, and this is probably the first production I've ever worked on where the lead actor, the head honcho, the main guy, goes out of his way to greet every single person in the room and introduce himself, shake hands, say, "Hi, I'm Peter. Hi, I'm Peter. Hello." And it's like, I've God knows how many productions I've got underneath my belt and all the celebrities I met in my time, but like that's the first time I've ever seen that on a set ever. And then because obviously I worked on Smile, so I've met him briefly then, And then I saw him afterwards on the Monk episodes, and he actually recognized me. And I was just like, really? Oh, shit, okay. And the other great memory I have, you might like this as well, was actually in the Smile episode. Do you know the bit where towards the end where he puts his sonic screwdriver on the Vardy, and then, you know, everyone gets this big explosion, and then he does his whole monologue about the fish, I think it was, you know, the fisherman, or have you. So basically, when he's doing that monologue, you didn't quite see it at the time, because what happens in the editing process, some things get cut out just due to time restraints, what have you. So what happens in the timeline of that, basically he creates the explosion with the Vardy. Then he goes on to this monologue where he's walking around the room and says that. And at different points during the monologue, we sort of, the gun runners, Ralph Little's gun runners, sort of get up and we're sort of looking around, and then we're just like, what the hell, listening to what he's got to say. And then obviously he turns on one point with the companion, and just goes, smile. But that was quite funny because we were really, really rushed for time, because obviously with filming constraints, and basically we had to get this shot done because the next day they were all flying out to Valencia. So, you know, they had to get this shot in the can. There was 10 minutes left on the clock. There's no exception. This shot needs to get done. Bear in mind, we're in the set in Rothlock Studios, and the floor is hard. It's hard wood. It's not very comfortable, and we're all lying there. Okay? And they'll say, we need to get this in the can. We've got 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes. And rolling. And all I hear is someone's fast asleep on the floor. I'm thinking, oh, and so obviously Peter, hat off to the guy, you know, we all did our bits, we all got up at several points, you know, doing the bit. This guy is fast asleep, snoring his head off in the middle of a shot. It's not a quiet snore, it's a full-on and like, you know, how Peter managed to keep it, like we're all like looking there. It's like I was actually thinking to myself, should I like improv, like pretend to wake him up, you know, just like, hey, you okay, are you still alive, you know, check his pulse kind of thing. But I was like, I don't want to get in trouble, there's only 5 minutes left of this, I'm just going to stick to my character. And so then whenever Peter, you know, nailed his monologue, absolutely nailed it, didn't flinch, he completely ignored the snoring guy. But then when he turned around to do the smile bit, he went, I'm sorry, is someone snoring? And everyone just pissed themselves laughing. It was just like, oh my god, how can you, it's not even a comfortable floor, how are you fast asleep? So yeah, don't fall asleep on set during a take is my advice to anyone who wants to get into filming.
Exactly. Some people, fair play to them, or maybe not in this case, can just fall asleep anywhere. I mean, that is a skill that has its weaknesses.
I mean, I hold my hand up. I've done it a few times on Casualty, but that's because I've been physically a patient in a bed and be told, okay, pretend you're asleep. And like, if you put a man in a comfy bed and tell him to pretend to be asleep, I'm going to nod off. I'm sorry. There's no ifs and buts. But like he was flat on his back on this hard wood floor, uncomfortable, going, dude. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon.
I imagine not. I mean, especially not if they had words with him afterwards. But obviously, I don't know if they did or not. But I have to say, like Matthew, you should seriously consider doing some sound effects work at some point, because that snoring, wow, that was so good.
I can't say it's out of practice, to be honest. I'm told I'm not a snorer unless I've drunk too much, so...
That's really funny, though. And you mentioned as well as the great memories, you had a bad memory as well.
To be honest, I don't think I've really had a bad memory, to be honest. They've all sort of really been good shoots. I mean, the cast and crew I've worked with, not on even just on Doctor Who or Class, like other projects like all over the world, and they're all a good bunch of people. Absolutely batshit crazy, but they're a good bunch of guys.
Yeah, fair enough. I just thought you mentioned earlier that you had great memories and a bad memory, so... Yeah, I just thought you mentioned that earlier, so that's why I brought that up.
No, not really. Apart from like obviously losing body hair, which will never grow back again. I'm pretty much good.
Yeah, fair enough. You also had roles in the Doctor Who spin-offs Class and Torchwood, although the latter, of course, was quite a number of years ago. Can you describe your experience working on both of these shows, body hairs aside? Or lack of?
Well, Torchwood, I was actually quite disappointed with that because there was a 3-day shoot down Merthyr Mawr Beach in Wales. And it's basically we were Captain Jack's home planet. And so basically we were told we'd be running from the ocean pretty much like a mile or like half a mile inland and up this massive sandbank. And like I had this woman I had to drag, and we were pretending like the things in the sky trying to kill us. We're like, run for your lives, kind of thing. Yeah, all of that got cut. Like none of it was shown. All hit the cutting room floor. So yeah, I think the only bit that they showed was in the actual episode was all as corpses, basically. So yeah. That was pretty bad, considering I had really bad sunburn as well. But yeah, that was not really that interesting, to be honest. But it was one of those productions, it's one of those things that made me realize, if something happens, what's the word I'm trying to describe? Basically, it was because of that production, I was always kind of like, if I'm worked on something, I'm not actually going to tell people I'm on it until they've seen me, because it was just one of those things like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in Torchwood. Oh no, I'm not. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I completely understand that, because I mean I have talked to people that have like their family or friends, whatever, what have you, like sitting there waiting for their scenes to come up with them, and then they're cut. Like it really, like. It's even more disappointing than the scene actually being cut, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a rookie mistake, which I'll never make again.
Fair enough, and that actually does explain why on IMDb your Torchwood role is mentioned as being uncredited. So that's why that would explain it, basically.
Yeah, and again, it was the only thing with my IMDb is because someone made a wrong IMDb, so that's me trying to correct it. So.
Yeah, understandable, of course. Of all of the productions you have worked on so far, which one would you describe as the most challenging in your career so far?
God, that's a hard one. Wow. Do you know what? You sent me these questions before, and I didn't even think about that one. Well, obviously, I said like the Cyberman stuff was quite challenging within itself, obviously getting all the moves right and all the movement, but it's the other productions which I found pretty hard as well. I was also there's an American drama called The White Princess. I was only a servant in that role, but I was on that for 6 months solid, doing a minimum of 3 days a week, and that was a pretty hard job, and that was going all over the country. But to be honest, the hardest job I've ever had was something I can't quite talk about yet because it hasn't quite been released. But basically, I've been doing a lot of crew work in terms of standing in for obviously the main principals. And this one particular, I'll talk about the scene, but I can't talk about the show, unfortunately. It is going to be a feature-length film on Netflix. Where I was standing in for a A-list Hollywood celebrity. I'm just going to stop there. So the scene basically is he hides in the cave system, and he has to hide in like this sort of underground water bit from someone with a gun. And basically it's as wide as my shoulders, and it's just basically like a very, very long, wet tomb. And the point of a stand-in, if the listeners aren't familiar, is so basically what happens is I will do all the actions and movements for the main actor for them, so they can set camera and lighting on me, to save obviously the main actor faffing around with it, because it could take hours potentially. And then once they're happy with the lighting and cameras, I'll step out so then the main actor can go in and do his stuff. The problem with this was the water I was submerged in was heated at the start. First of all, I was given a wetsuit, which was fine, but it was still too cold. So then they gave me a dry suit, which then leaked. Then they gave me another dry suit, which leaked again. But obviously, it was so late in the day, it's like, fuck it, I'll just stay in it. Long story short, I actually got quite friendly with the medic on set as well. We always had, when you meet someone, you always have a joke, having a banter, la 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 la. All right, she's like, okay, you seem pretty cold. Because they don't get me wrong, they looked after me. They had a nice warm room for me to be in. So she went to take my temperature. She looked at my temperature and she's like, "You've gone hypothermic." And I was like, "Well, no, you're kidding me." She said, No, you've gone hypothermic. We need to warm you up right now. So it's like, oh crap. Because apparently the thing is with hypothermia is the problem is you don't feel it. And that was one of the cases with this. And so I just remembered being in my three-way, which is obviously like my own private change room, hot water bottle on my chest, hot water bottle on my back, wrapped in blankets, the heater on full blast. I'm holding a cup of coffee. I'm thinking, guys, I feel fine. And she's like, this girl I've always sort of been joking with for the past 4 months of this production, she looked me dead in the eye. She said, "If we don't warm you up, we have to take you to A&E." And I was like, oh, okay. And so, yeah, and to be honest, it's one of those things. Luckily, it was a Friday, and I did feel it the next day. But yeah, so luckily they managed to warm me up a little bit. They said, right, you need to drive straight home, get straight into bed, keep yourself warm, la 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 la. But yeah, so nearly going hypothermic for a role is probably the hardest day I've ever had on set.
Wow, the things people do for the craft.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, that is an intense story, I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, it actually makes me very curious that eventually, once you're allowed to talk about it, obviously, like, finding out what that role is and what the production is, just so I can be like, that's the scene. Like, I mean, obviously you won't be in the scene, the actor will, but I'll still be able to be like, yeah, that's the particular scene. Like, I'm sure I'll know when I see it.
Yeah, you will. I said it's going to be on Netflix. That's as far as I can go, unfortunately. And yeah, just keep an eye on my Twitter, because I'll always kind of announce. Because obviously the main rule with filming work is I can only announce that I've been in something once it's been established that it's going to come out. It's like what really annoyed me about Wonder Woman is because I had like a really good 4 days working on Wonder Woman, and again they cut all of my scenes. So it's like, can I talk? Because like in the main trailer, I was in the ballroom scene. When she walks through in the blue dress.
Yeah.
So I was in that scene. So I was going like, can I announce that I'm in it yet? But then again, I shot myself in the foot because they cut me out. So.
Yeah. So now it's not even on your IMDb.
No. Not at all.
No, that was interesting. Now it's sad, but at least now we know you were almost in Wonder Woman. Maybe you'll be in another DC film. Fingers crossed.
Well, I was actually meant to be in Justice League as well, but they really, really screwed me around. They said, "Hey, do you want to come in for like 3 weeks of fight training and then 3 months of filming?" I was like, "Yeah," and then they changed it. It's like, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks with like 2 months filming, and I was sort of like, yeah. But then they said, okay, we pushed the dates back. I'm like, okay, I can swap around my calendar. I can still do this. Okay, we pushed the dates back. And they kept pushing the date back so much and so much and so much and so much to the point where like they actually turned around and said, "Thanks for being available. We're going to use some stuntmen instead." I'm like,
wow, they could have just like decided to use stuntmen from the beginning.
Oh. From what I heard, though, some of my friends who worked in production, like the Justice League movie, was all over the shop. I don't know how it is now, but yeah, when it first started filming, it was all over the place. So it'd be interesting to see how it comes out anyway.
Yeah, I mean there's an embargo on full critics reviews until Wednesday, I believe, but like the kind of like Twitter reactions have already started if you look at those online.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, I've read a few. Like they've been fair. Like I don't think any has only like want to have called it a great film. Most have said it's good, like better than, you know, the two last year, but I don't think any have called it wonderful yet. I'll have to look at that, but certainly, I mean, they've at least said it's better than, you know, BVS and Suicide Squad. So,
oh damn it! I can't. I'm really bitter and tormented, and I want it to be bad. I'm like, oh, good thing I'm not in it then.
You're honest to the T.
Well, you know, good luck to everyone, but like at the same time, damn you for not hiring me.
My final question for you, Matthew: do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about aside from hypothermia?
Well, actually, the one role which I got hypothermia in, we're doing 2 days of pickups, which again I can't talk about. I know obviously you're a massive Doctor Who fan, so I can confirm that I've worked as 2 characters in the Christmas episode. What they are, I cannot tell you, and will not tell you, unfortunately. But unfortunately, the film industry goes pretty quiet in the build-up to Christmas anyway. So currently I've got nothing on my plate. But to be honest, I've had a really manic 2 months. Because as I was telling you before this, I stream on Twitch, and I happily tell my Twitch followers what I've been up to. This past 2 months, first of all, I spent 1 week in London filming, being a musician on a Disney film, which I can't talk about. Then as soon as that finished, I was on a plane to Denmark for 2 weeks. And then once that finished, straight on the plane back to Wales to finish that off in Wales for 3 weeks. And then once that finished, as soon as that finished, I was on a plane to South Africa to surprise my friend at his wedding. And he didn't know I was coming. So the fact I've only got 2 days filming is actually a godsend, because I can relax, I can catch up with my Twitch followers, which is really nice. And another thing which is going on, I'm doing my very, very first Comic-Con appearance in the Pandorica in Bristol. And yeah, that's going to be interesting, because I'm not used to this kind of attention, if I'm honest with you.
That's very cool, though, doing your first Comic-Con. Maybe you'll learn more of the episode titles by then.
Yes. I'll actually remember what I've actually been in. It's just like, so what shows you been in? It's like, hang on.
Yeah, but it's very cool. Well, I hope your first Comic-Con goes well, and that, you know, that
Me too.
that the pickups go well and everything else coming out that you've got, and that you enjoy catching up with your Twitch followers, of course.
Of course.
That's very important. So that's all of my questions for you today, Matthew. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I hope I was at least fairly interesting, if not mediocre at best, you know.
No, definitely pretty interesting. Hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, of course, mate. I said the only things I can really talk about is the Christmas episode and the Disney film, but until they get their announcement, I'm really tight-lipped, I'm afraid.
Of course, as you should be. So we'll look forward to talking to you again soon, and thanks again for joining us. Take care. Bye.
All right. Take care, dude. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Time to wrap up today's show. Make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official-everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, at www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the host's YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/separatistdestroyers. check out Matthew Rohman's website, roman.org, and check out channel 1138 where he broadcasts live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
There are so many memories that I will cherish. Some of them I won't say, that are private, and that's my thing. And then just also fiddling with all the buttons.
But there we are. That's another matter altogether. However, a fortnight later, I was called in to get fitted for a costume. And the costume included, to my great disgust, a